This Worlds is probably the most exciting Worlds ever in the history of League of Legends. What makes these players so amazing, and why have they improved so much in the last decade? Well, I'm here to tell you. My name is Dr. Amin Issa, and 5 years ago I was the first person to apply eye tracking technology to help us understand what makes League players so great. I focus on eye tracking. First, I want you to think of gaze tracking as the gateway to a player's brain. What they're paying attention to tells you a lot about what they are thinking. When we can more completely understand what players are thinking, we can reach new heights in training and performance. By seeing what Faker sees, we can understand why he makes certain decisions and understand his thought processes more clearly. Player sits in the same place and looks at the same monitor the entire game. This is doubly effective since we can more easily combine multiple streams of data by syncing eye tracking and game data. The most amazing thing about gaming is that it's the key to unlocking a lot of how we understand human behavior and learning. For the same reason AI companies seek to understand problem solving through games, think OpenAI and Dota 2, understanding human performance through games is ideal as well. Games have clear, defined goals with near instantaneous outcomes and feedback. Eye tracking is a multifaceted subject to analyze, and each part of it contributes to overall performance. Probably the most familiar to you is the concept of tunnel vision. Let's take a look at this clip from the semi-final game between FPX and IG. The Shy, considered by some to be the best player in the world, is in an excellent position to carry the game. He has hit level 16 on Kayle and is the most fed person in the game, which basically means he's the most powerful person on the map. He sees the enemy bot laner in what seems like an out of position place and starts to chase. He ignores everything else and tunnels on LWX and ends up dying to the enemy team as a result. Tunnel vision is not just something that exists in League of Legends, but to put it simply, it happens when we over-index our attention on one thing and ignore our surroundings. One of the most common scenarios is when you are driving. Sometimes people are so focused on the car in front of them, they may not notice the car in the lane next to them or even behind them. You can bet that tunnel vision is the cause of a lot of car accidents. Or let's look at a sport like basketball. The player is so focused on the opponent they are guarding that they don't see the other player come up from next to them, and then bam! Their path is obstructed and the opponent is free to score. Identifying your tunnel vision and controlling it is the first step to getting your crush and to winning at League. Don't worry, everyone who plays League experiences tunnel vision, from someone as good as the Shy to someone as bad as your average Iron 4 player. Sound familiar? Good. Now that we've identified the problem, how do we solve it? When reviewing our own replays with eye tracking, we can see exactly where we're looking every millisecond. We can realize what we did wrong and what maybe we could have done differently, and remember that for the future. Using this technique, we can learn more from the Fakers and the Shys of the world. There's so much going on in League that to become a great player, you can't afford to watch one place for so long. And you have to make decisions every second based on the information you are receiving. Use a League with our app, and with Atovia Eye Tracker, we will automatically sync up what is happening in the game with what you're looking at and figure out if you are a tunneler. With that information, we will be able to score you and show you if you're progressing towards your goal of becoming a better you. Once you've identified your tunnel vision problem and a few places where it commonly happens to you, team fights, skirmishes, smite wars, what can you do to improve? Well, you can start by learning to diversify your focus. Start building habits that force you to scan other information channels. For example, force yourself to check the minimap every CS. This way you can keep tabs on your opponents and take note of when they hit their power spikes. Remember that at first this might be rough because you might be slow and die to something you wouldn't have normally died to, but you will get better. You can never get better if you don't start. Practice, practice, and more practice. You need to build the necessary repeated actions to recognize information and react appropriately. If you don't pick the right habits to practice and the right information gathering techniques, your practice will be in vain, so be smart and efficient with your time. People always focus on what's happening in the game, but very few people focus on what's happening outside the game. Learn to train your mind to become more familiar with what you're looking for while away from the game so you can see it quicker inside the game.